eBay UK is a sitting, underrated, and untapped gold mine that most people completely ignore. And today I'm going to walk you through how eBay UK actually works and how to approach it the right way for success in 2026. All in 7 easy steps. Let's get started. So the first step is what most people would consider boring. And I want to say this up front because people underestimate how important and imperative this part is. You need an eBay UK account. If you already have one, that's fine. But if it's old, if it's inactive, or if it's tied to some random stuff that you did a few years ago, maybe some stuff that you shouldn't have, I usually recommend just starting fresh. And the reason isn't superstition, it's simply just how eBay evaluates risk. eBay doesn't just look at listings, they look at the accounts themselves. They're asking, does this look like a real person? Does this account behave normally? So when you create the account, use real information. Use a real name, real address, real phone number. And I'm not just, trying to be strict here, but honestly, eBay UK is extremely sensitive to these trust signals, especially early on. And this part matters more than people think. If something looks off at the start, eBay doesn't always just immediately shut you down. Instead, what they do, some people might consider worse. They simply just start to limit you without even telling you. You'll list products, you won't get any views. You won't get any traction, and you'll have no idea what you did wrong, and you might even think it's you and you might quit. Now, once the account is created, don't rush straight into listing products. Take a breath, log in, verify your email, verify your phone number, and make sure that everything lines up. And let me say this very clearly because people start to kind of get a little iffy here. If you're not physically in the UK, don't try to pretend that you are. You can still sell to the UK market. Don't worry about that. But conflicting information creates friction, and friction is what kills accounts. Your goal from day one is simple. Create an account that looks boring, but normal and trustworthy. If you get this wrong, everything else becomes harder than it really needs to be, and it might even be easier to just start over. Now, before you sell anything, I want you to pause right here because this step is almost, I guess, the one that everyone skips. Not because, they're just being lazy. I mean, maybe that is probably why it is, but because it feels like something that you can just really push off until later, or they can just ignore it. And on most platforms, you kind of can, but on eBay UK, you can't. So step 2 is setting your account up the right way. This step is what protects you once real orders start coming in. When you go into your account settings and start setting things like your shipping policy, your return policy, and your payment preferences, you're not just filling out forms, signing, and that's it. You're essentially setting expectations. You're telling eBay and the buyer how your store works before any money ever exchanges hands or digital wallets. Let's talk about shipping first, because this is where people accidentally mess themselves up. And this is actually number 1 in this part. So when you write your shipping times, don't write the optimistic version. Don't write the optimistic version. Write what you can actually deliver consistently, even when something goes wrong, and always take into consideration something potentially going wrong, like maybe a 2-day shipping delay. Because this is what's going to happen otherwise. A buyer is going to place an order. The product is going to show up late. They don't care why it's late. They don't care about any supplier delays. As far as they know, you're the one that's shipping it. All they know is that you promised one thing and you delivered another. And now you're answering messages. Now you're dealing with frustrated customers, and now you're the one that's going to be a step closer to negative feedback. Not because the product was bad, but because you set the wrong expectations. The same logic applies to returns. If your supplier gives you, let's say, a 30-day window for returns, don't stretch it to 60 days just because it looks nicer and you think nothing's going to be wrong with the product. It might sound harmless, but what you're really doing is making a promise that you might not be able to keep. I mean, you can keep it if you take the product back and then you take that loss. But I don't know if you want to take a loss. And when that happens, eBay doesn't side with, your intent. They side with the actual policies. Think of it like a chain. Your listing says one thing, your policies say another thing, and your supplier reality says something completely different. If those don't line up, you're the one in the middle that's taking the hit and you're potentially losing money. The goal here isn't excitement, it's predictability. I know it's boring, it's clear, but realistic policies are really what keep your account clean when things start to scale. Step 3, what are you allowed to sell on eBay? So before we talk about the products, we need to talk about the rules, because nothing kills momentum faster than listings getting taken down or getting suspended or your store getting banned. On eBay UK, not everything is allowed. certain brands are going to be protected, and some categories are going to be restricted, and some listings get flagged almost instantly. This is why people think that eBay bans accounts randomly. It's not random. They just skipped this particular step. Early on, your job isn't to be clever, it's to be safe. You want low risk, allowed products. No big brands, no copyrighted items. This one's very important. And no gray area listings. And this is where the idea that boring sells actually matters, not as a marketing strategy, but as protection. All right, now we can talk about products, and we're doing this the eBay way, not the TikTok way that everyone talks about. You start inside eBay itself. You search for a particular product, and then you filter by sold listings. Now, this part matters a lot, so don't rush it. You're looking for consistency, multiple sales, multiple sellers with similar pricing, not just, one person that got lucky and sold one product or sold multiples. And let me explain why this works. You're not trying to guess demand. You're essentially borrowing it. If people are already buying something on the platform, your job isn't to reinvent the wheel, it's to execute it properly or even better than the last person. UK buyers actively search for solutions. Home products, storage, DIY tools, garden items, practical accessories. And this is important. If a product feels boring, that's usually kind of a good sign. UK buyers don't want surprises. They want something that solves a problem, arrives when you say it will, and works the way that it's supposed to. Your goal here isn't to find one magical, super trending product. It's to build a list of products that are worth testing. This is essentially a numbers game. eBay is a big numbers game. It's not really a lottery ticket where you just find one and you're done. All right, on to step 5. Once you found a product, sourcing matters, especially in the UK. So let's talk about suppliers and shipping. Now, shipping times here aren't suggestions, they're expectations again. If your supplier can't realistically meet the delivery window, your accounts take the hit, not the supplier. Your customer doesn't care that you have a supplier. Your customer doesn't care. Again, they just want what you promised them. And this is where a lot of US-style strategies fall apart. UK buyers are used to reliable delivery. That doesn't mean you can't sell products that are shipping from abroad, right? But it does mean that your listing, your policies, and your supplier reality, again, need to match. A slightly worse product with reliable shipping will be a perfect product with bad delivery every single time. This is one of those boring fundamentals that quietly decides whether a store survives or not. All right, step 6, let's talk about listing the product itself. So at this point, we all know that we're not guessing anymore. You already know the product that sells, you know it's allowed, and you know that you can ship reliably. Now your job is the execution. And this is where people still mess things up, even after doing everything else right. When you create the listing, you're not trying to be clever and you're not trying to be exciting. You're not trying to hype anything up. I mean, you kind of are, but that's not the whole point. Really, your job here is clarity. Start with the title. Use the same words that a buyer would naturally type into eBay's search bar. No crazy buzzwords, no hype phrases, just clear, searchable language. Then comes the description, and this is where you really need to slow things down. Here, you need to explain what the buyer is actually getting. Get into details, what the product does, what it's made of, what problem it solves, and just as importantly, what it's not going to do. Let me say this another way because this really matters. UK buyers aren't looking to be convinced. They're looking to be reassured. In their head, they're asking, do I understand this? Does this seem legit? And am I going to regret buying this later? If your listing answers those questions calmly and clearly, you're going to win. Remember, overpromising might still get you the sale, but the problems are going to show up later in messages, disputes, and the feedback. That's what actually slows stores down. All right, step 7, orders, fulfillment, and automation. When you first start, doing things manually is perfectly fine. You can manually import products, you can manually place your orders, and manually upload your tracking. That works at the beginning because things are kind of slow, you're still setting things up. But once orders really start coming in, things and your pace starts to change really fast. Prices start to update from your suppliers. Products can potentially go out of stock. And orders are going to come in while you're sleeping or even while you're on vacation. Tracking needs to be uploaded all the time. And suddenly tasks that should take seconds start taking 20 or 30 minutes per order, or sometimes even an entire day focusing on just mundane tasks. And that's where mistakes really start to happen. And on eBay, human error gets punished really quickly. This is where something like AutoDS actually makes sense, not as a shortcut, but as an infrastructure. AutoDS lets you automate the parts of dropshipping that might seem kind of boring or very repetitive. Like things like, let's say, product importing. It becomes one click instead of a bunch of manual work, copying and pasting. Price and stock monitoring runs by itself in the background, so you don't have to constantly keep checking on your supplier's prices, and order fulfillment can be handled automatically once a sale comes in. That turns tasks that normally take 20 or 30 minutes into tasks that you don't even have to really look at. Less time, less stress, and far less human error. Remember, automation doesn't replace thinking. It replaces repetition. And repetition is what burns people out in e-commerce. Now, if you do want to try it, AutoDS offers a trial that lets you import products, manage your listings, and automate your entire order fulfillment, all for just $1 for 2 weeks. I'll leave the link for you down in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you want to see what products are really selling on eBay right now, or how to find the best selling products for your eBay dropshipping store, just check out this video right here.